I always watch the news in the morning. And I had the news on, and I saw the second plane hit the building. At that time, I told my mother, I says, it's going to be a few days before I'll be back home, because I know anytime we have an emergency in New York City, we're always involved. So we went down to, I reported in that morning, and they gave us instructions to go to the Bronx, where we had the payloaders, and I took the low boy down there, and we picked up the payloaders, and we went to Manhattan, and we had a line of workers and tractors and trailers all lined up down by City Hall, and we was waiting for instructions to start work, because they had so many police and fire department personnel there at the time. We couldn't get in there. But maybe before the sun rose the next day, we was in there helping to find those who were still missing. I can remember walking through the soot and everything. It was so deep, and you could see body parts, and it was so illuminating. It reminded me of Vietnam, because I was in the Vietnam War also. So that's what it reminded me of, a war zone. So it was just terrible to see all the people were demolished, and all that heavy soot and the vehicles and everything. They even put the vehicles in the dump trailers. The police made a beeline from Manhattan to Staten Island, where we transfer all the debris for the FBI to go through in Staten Island. I drove the low boy, the dump trailers. We also supplied the police and the reserve team with fuel, because we have fuel trucks also, and the lights to service the lights when we were working at night. It needed fuel also, generators, all of that. Every vehicle that we had was working around the clock. Yes, a lot of our guys from there who was in our department who were cutters, they were there digging out, using the payloads to dig out and everything, and cutting the metal, and loading our trucks so we can get everybody. You know, we had to do it in a delicate way, because you never know if there was anybody still alive. We had to take our time, you know. We couldn't go too fast. The vehicles were all scattered all over the place. They had to be cleared first before anybody could get in there with other vehicles, with rescue vehicles. You know, the vehicles they had trucks, other fire department vehicles that was there, we moved them all, because there was some fire department vehicles there also that was damaged. They couldn't move. Now
all those vehicles were damaged because of the debris that had fallen from the towers.
Debris that had fallen from the towers, and it was so horrific.
Would you say that most of the equipment clearing all of the debris you're talking about were mostly transit vehicles and personnel?
Oh yeah, they had some personnel that were volunteers from the outside, but every vehicle that we had was in operation.
But the big equipment that was being operated in the first days was...
Oh, that was all transit. That was all transit. That was all transit. That was all of us. We was all out there from the very beginning, you know. And I remember I was there for like 2, almost 3 days before I was able to go home and get some sleep. You know? And we weren't wearing any masks, because we wasn't, you know, we was worried about just rescuing people. We wasn't thinking about ourselves. We was out there working just to, you know, making sure that everybody else is going to be safe, and try to rescue those who maybe were under the rubble in trouble.
We had to clean every station down there, and we put on masks. We had the mobile wash guns, and we blew every station from Broadway, Nassau to City Hall clean. I will never forget that. Every night we went down there, and we used to talk as CTAs and say, well, we're calling out sick. we're not going to work because nobody wants to be down there. And they gave us a white jumpsuit and a little white mask that we put on our face, and it wasn't good enough because while we were working, the suit ripped. The masses were damaged. The good thing about it is the church right across the street where the two World Trade Centers stood, there was a church. And they gave us all kinds of dry stuff, coffee, and they gave us sandwiches. And we worked all night till 6 a.m. in the morning. And we had to do it because that was our job description. They wanted us to go across the street. And some guys came and said, well, bring them across the street. They can help dig out the bodies. And I said, I'm not going because that's not my job description. And it worked where there was like, maybe 10 or 11 teams down there every night because the mobile wash is a lot of people. Normally it's 3. Somebody does the bucket, somebody does the gun, and somebody does the walls. But we each had an extra person. And we did this night after night after night. And it looked like the end of the world down there. Rubble, smoke. We seen them digging out bodies looking across the street. The NYPD was there, the fire department, FBI, everybody was there. You know, and I feel it's very sad because as a CTA in New York City Transit, we worked down there. We wasn't first responders, but we cleaned up that whole area. And if it wasn't for us power washing those stations with debris, no telling what was down there, asbestos or whatever, how would the people be riding the trains today? And we got no recognition at all, none.
They wanted right away, TA wanted the machinery and stuff out there, and they got as far as they could was the piers, and they waited till they got a police escort to get over. They took us into Manhattan, and there, you know, everybody was running a little wild.
How did the machines get over to Manhattan?
We drove them over. We had a whole bunch of us, like a convoy of machines driving them over. Yeah, we went down 4th Avenue, and then over the bridge. Everything. They were still putting out the fires. We got down there early. They were still putting out the fires, you know, a lot of debris and everything else. Everybody running different ways.
Did anyone else besides Transit have any heavy equipment down there at that time?
I only remember us. You know, we were pretty much together. I think it was pretty much us.
So what was your assignment once you actually got down there?
Well, whatever they needed us for. They put the air and gas tanks in the bucket, you know, so we could get through where they couldn't pull them, you know, pushing cars out the way, or whatever they need us.
We were doing the inspections, looking, first of all, we were assisting like the FBI, the Secret Service, to find parts of all the planes. And whatever we found, we'd bring it to the West Side Highway, and that's where they had the coroners they had there, where they put all the body parts. Nobody cared about nobody, I believe. Maybe that's why everybody's sick, everybody's dying down there. I'm lucky. I'm actually lucky. This is going on, what, 14 years, 15 years? And then the nerve of them to give you a policy, a 20-year policy they gave you about the insurance policy. Did you see that? They gave you a 20-year insurance policy, and each year, it was something like $100,000. Each year, it steps down like $5,000, $10,000. So now, this, let's say 15 years, there's 5 years left. After 5 years, no more insurance policy. Not health insurance, life insurance. Nothing. That's another joke.
They put us on a mobile wash van, and they brought us down to Park Avenue. When we got to Park Avenue, we saw all the cars, fired engine cars, police cars, everything was crashed, and suds all over the buildings. And then they sent us to downstairs Park Place. And that's where we had to clean at Park Place. When we got downstairs, everything was full of sud. They gave us some white masks, some white gown to put on, and the mask over our face. But even though we had the mask over our face, we were still breathing all the suds, all the dust. So we had to sweep all the steps, and then walk around, and then pick up the garbage, trying to get all the debris and everything all around. It was just like a nightmare. You know, we had to breathe all that in. And the little paper, the mask that they gave us, it didn't even help us. Because the way it was so bad, they gave us a white suit we had to just put the white suit and zip us up.
And what about your health?
The health, and up to now, I still, at nighttime, I still like cough and all that with my breathing. And I know a lot of people suffer with asthma. A lot of my coworkers, they never had asthma before. From then, they still suffer, and then they keep on going back and forth to see the doctor, but transit keep on denying them. And I think two or three of them, they lost their job because of the 9/11.
We stayed overnight with no sleep. Our duties were, once we got down there, our duties were to get 3/4-inch plywood and cordon off all stairway exits, Chambers Street and Whitehall, Rector, all of them on the 1 and the R. I think we did like 4 or 5 stations. And it was a lot of work to it. It was a lot of getting the material down there, and the fellas did a great job because they didn't want no terrorism going down into someone planting a bomb in the subway. The actual ground zero where the bucket brigade was, and the firemen were passing back the buckets, and I was just astonished. It was incomprehensible. Just no words to say what was there. Like a bomb hit it. That's not really a good explanation. All I could say, it was like being in the sub-basement of hell. That's my definition of it. And very grim and very eerie. And everybody had a stoic look on their face. We all knew this was the real thing. And shock, total panic. Not so much panic, just shock to digest this and assimilate it. And a lot of firemen, they down on the buckets, and a lot of our guys and everyone, they couldn't wear that cartridge mask because the amount of work you're doing, and it's such a big cardio with the buckets and grabbing the debris. You need to take monster capacity of your lungs. You know, you need so a lot of firemen and a lot of everybody was taking the mask off, let it dangle from there, and that's how a lot of people got sick.
Oh my God. At first I thought it was snowing. I thought, yeah, I said, but before I got down there, I actually saw the second plane hit the building, and I wanted to go home. I said, this is not an accident. That's what I was thinking. But my supervisor said, no, you can't go, because they get strict orders that the men have to stay on.
And it was like something out of a movie scene. Because as we were walking down, because we had to walk from Canal Street down to the Trade Center, as we were walking, and the ash is all over, it's just getting deeper. We were on cleanup. The first place we went to was Chambers Street on the would have been the IRT. Pitch black, dust flying everywhere, and you could hear water running. And water was up to the level of the platforms. So right away my foreman says, okay, let's get out of here. There's nothing we can do here. We walked up to Franklin Street, and we assisted with the pump trains to start pumping the water out. We had just, a couple of weeks before that, we had just finished redoing doing what's called a chip out at Rector Street, where we were replacing track. And from what I understand, one of the girders went right through the station.
It just took me back to when I was in the Navy. I was standing on the coast of Lebanon, and I seen this devastation. Yeah, seen them pulling bodies out. I mean, I got stuck. And there was a veteran, a VA doctor, that had seen something, and then he set me up for a CAT scan. They picked me up on a Saturday, sent to cab and everything, brought me down, and they did a CAT scan on my lungs. They found a spot on my lungs, and I submitted that to World Trade Center people. And then, from there, that's when I heard from the compensation fund. Things were looking up from there, but I'm hoping to go ahead and live to get the rest. Let's say it like that.
I was shocked that when I went downstairs at Wall Street, went down to the first level, where the token booth was, and then to the mezzanine, then went down to the platform, and actually walked into where I had to put the ready trip. The ashes were all the way down those 2 levels and into where the track bed was. It was something that I thought I would never see in my lifetime. It reminded me of pictures that I saw of like a war zone. Contact rail had fallen down on the ground in certain areas, and we needed to kind of get contact rail, the third rail, put it back up on its insulator.
The smell. I remember the smell. It's one of a kind, you know. Flesh burning. I know that because I've been around the crematorium, you know, and it was the same exact smell. A whole bunch of us guys, we got together on Friday after work. You know, the first thing that we got down there was helping unload a truck full of body bags. And then carrying water. And the bucket brigade. It was like 3 of us. Or 4, it was 4 of us, and we just decided to go down there. I mean, we grabbed a couple of things. I was working at Corona Barn at the time, and right after, you know, when we punched out at 3 o'clock, we just went straight there. It's terrible, man. You know, a lot of people needed help.
Not to say that this face represents the faces of the many brothers and sisters who were there that day, and the anguish and the suffering that many of us endured spiritually and mentally represents the spirit of this union, all the people in New York and all the brothers and sisters that were there that day to show their strength and unity as a family, and to show the rest of the world the great strength that the solemn pride of God can give every one of us, to use as a tool and metaphor to represent what this great country, this great union, and all of us as a whole and as a people can show the rest of the world as an example of the gift that we have, that our great and Heavenly Father gives us each and every day to be strong. And this is the face of TWU, all its members, and the spirit of this great city.
I saw the first plane strike, and of course I got numb, but as soon as I regained my conscience. Hello, Mr. Sanders.
I was interviewing him.
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you.
In my life that I think I'd shake your hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where are you from? What depot?
I'm a retired bus operator out of Elmo Park Depot. 2011 I retired.
Okay.
A medical disability.
Ah.
And I was telling this gentleman here, I was actually home when the first plane struck. And once I regained my senses, I said, I got to get to work because they're going to need me. So I got dressed right away before my report time. When I got to the Verrazano Bridge, I live in Staten Island, but they wouldn't let me over. They had shut down the bridges already. So I pulled out my pass. I said, listen, they're going to need me. I'll tell you right now, you know, I have 20-something years on the job. Every time there's an emergency, I already know what they're going to need drivers for. You know, so I reasoned with him, and finally he relented, and he let me cross the bridge.
A cop you're talking about?
TA cop, or from the Verrazano Bridge.
Yeah, TBTA.
TBTA, yeah. So when I got to work, they assigned us buses to go to Shea Stadium first. Mr. Dorby, I think his name is. I think he was a superintendent, I don't know. But anyway, we had to take the families to Ground Zero.
Yeah.
And after that, I was assigned to go downtown Brooklyn, Gold Street. There's a precinct down there. But that was basically the loading point. Adjacent to wherever the park is at, that's where the firefighters loaded up at. And we took them to the Millennium Hotel.
You know, the irony is they would, folks looking on the outside looking in, and particularly the powers that be that control these museums, they would have no idea our bus operators did what they did. They ferried in emergency services, ferried them out, breathed in all the junk.
Yep.
Everybody focuses on the trades, and for good reason, and the cops and the firefighters, and for good reason. But transit workers were down there. We're getting sick now, and we're demanding recognition. Obviously, what's going on with the pin in the ceremony is a fight on our part to
get the level of respect that we deserve. And folks like you that are retired now, you know, if you didn't come into this hall, your story would have never been told.
This I'm very proud of. You know, I'm very proud only because of the recognition they gave us, but I'm not proud that I had to get it because of the people who died. You know, that really, that really hits home. It really hurt my heart. You know, but I'm very proud to have this, and I'll wear it always. I'm going to wear this. It won't just sit on my mantelpiece. I'm going to wear this pin always. I know on the news, all we heard about was police and fire department. We didn't hear too much about the transit, but we were the ones out there doing the work.